Inji, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished attendees. I would like to welcome you to BEBA's webinar on waste management in Egypt. For those of you who are fasting, Ramadan Kareem, a bit late, and I hope you and your families are staying safe and healthy. With regard to today's topic, as Egypt is the most populous country in the Middle East, population growth and changing patterns of consumption are expected to increase waste generation. Improper solid waste management leads to substantial negative environmental impacts, including health and safety issues. On October 13th, 2020, President Abdelfattah El Sisi ratified Egypt's first of its kind new waste management law, which presents the latest attempt towards regulating the industry and is a clear indication of Egypt's commitment towards a greener economy and sustainable growth. The law entered into force on October 14th, 2020, and the executive regulations are currently under preparation and expected to be released soon. The law foresees the granting of some financial and economic incentives and tax and custom exemptions in specific cases. It is also expected that new approaches for waste collection and recycling will create green jobs and promote the efficient use of resources. To provide insight in these topics, we are honored today to host the following panelists. Mr. Mohamed Badreldin, who is the Head of Corporate Affairs and Communications for Egypt and North Africa and board member in Unilever. Welcome, Mr. Mohamed. Mr. Omar Hassanein, Head of Material and Energy Recovery into Sustainable Resources Holding. Welcome, Mr. Hassanein. Mr. Roberto Mendes, Supply Chain Director in Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Egypt. And finally, Mr. Torky, Senior Advisor, Federation of Egyptian Industries. Our webinar today will be moderated by Ms. Khalil, Senior Associate at ADSERO, Ragy, Soliman and Partners. I would like to also seize this opportunity to thank our sponsors for their continuous support to BEBA. Our main sponsor for today is Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Egypt. And for the event sponsors, they are Born to Care, CIB Egypt, Polaris Parts, and finally QMB Life. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy a fruitful discussion. Before giving the floor to Malak, we will project a video on British American tobacco. Malak, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Inji.
Thank you.
Sorry, is the video done?
I think it's not playing yet, right?
No, it's not.
Nadia?
sorry, we're having a technical problem with the video. Bear with us 2 seconds, please. Thank you.
Now it's playing.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Inji, for the introduction. I would first like to thank BEBA for organizing this very timely discussion, and to thank our panelists for their willingness to give us their insight and opinions on the matter. So waste management in Egypt, this is a big topic. It's a topic we could spend hours discussing, but so today we decided to focus on solid waste management in Egypt. We're going to start with an overview on the waste situation in Egypt. We'll cover the main stakeholders, the main challenges, including collection cost. We will also cover briefly the latest legislative changes with the issuance of the new waste management law, our first waste management law in October 2020, pending the executive regulations. We will then move on to discussing what makes an effective waste management system, what are the features, who are the usual stakeholders, again, the different types of waste, different treatment options, and a comparison between environmental impact and cost of those treatment options. The discussion will be then funneled down to industrial waste with the role of the Federation of Egyptian Industries in encouraging different industries to be active key players in waste management. Coca-Cola and Unilever will then present their initiatives and with a focus again on plastic waste. So as you see, we will start with a more general overview, and then we will focus very gradually on industrial waste and then on plastics. We will finish the webinar with a presentation from Tony Romero on the new technologies in plastic recycling. There will be 30 minutes at the end for your questions. Please feel free to send them throughout the webinar, and we promise to do our best to answer them all. So let's get the discussion started. Omar, given your experience, I mean, in waste management in Egypt, how would you describe the sector at the moment in terms of, I mean, the waste situation in Egypt and the main challenges that you encounter?
First of all, good morning and hello to everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on this panel in a very, like you said, insightful and correct moment to discuss the waste file in Egypt. The current situation in Egypt regarding the waste management, I would say, is hopeful. That's the word I would like to use. Given the last 20 years and how the waste management was being managed before, and looking at what has been done in the last 2 to 3 years on the regulatory front, and what's coming in the future, I would say hopeful is the correct word to use. Would you like me to give an overview of the whole waste management, or would you like to discuss it in a question and answer kind of?
It's up to you. I mean, if you could maybe start with giving us an overview. I mean, what are the stakeholders? What are the main challenges so far? And then, I mean, it is good to hear that the approach is a hopeful approach. So how do you see, I mean, these challenges being addressed?
Okay, so let's start by giving some very generic figures on what, first of all, let's define the problem to find the solution. So we have waste management, solid waste management in Egypt, we would say is about 100 to 130 million tons per year, okay? Most of which is concentrated in three streams: municipal solid waste, or MSW, construction demolition waste, and agriculture waste. These three streams, I would say, compound up to 70 to 80% of solid waste in Egypt. If we want to dig deeper, I would dig into municipal solid waste. Why? Because that's the waste that we see every day. That's the waste that's around us in urban areas. Construction demolition waste usually is dumped outside the city limits, let's say, and agricultural waste is generated where it's produced, and usually is used where it is produced as well. So municipal solid waste is the one that's been increasing in the last 20 years and has been producing problems around urban areas with, open dumping, burning of the waste, lack of collection, people picking in the streets for scavenging and stuff like that. So we get into the composition of MSW. Composition of MSW is mostly organic material, 56 or 60% is organic material. And then you have packaging waste, which is paper and plastics, about 10 and 13%, more or less. And then you have the rest of the materials compound to about 25% all in all. Glass is about 4%, metal is about 2%, and other between some textiles and some personal care items and other types of waste, bulky waste that you get rid of every once in a while, compounds to the rest. To understand how the waste is managed, we need to understand the waste value chain, okay? So once you dispose of your waste in a garbage bag and you place it where it's supposed to be, in the bin outside your house or the corner that you agree with your neighbors or whatever the case may be, you place it in its place, then there is a few stages that need to be done with the waste so that it is channeled through the correct paths, let's say, okay? So you would have the collection of waste, you have the bulking of waste, you have long hauling of waste, you have the treatment, and then you have the final disposal of waste. So you have 5 steps. These steps, not all waste goes through the 5 steps. These 5 steps do not have to be, except for collection and disposal, do not have to be in the order that I just gave. They can go back and forth. And as I said before, not all of the wastes go through all of these steps. But any effective waste management system does have to have these 5 steps in place, okay? So if we talk about the case in Egypt is a very specific case. If you ask, your older generations in the 50s and the 60s, they would say that the cities were much cleaner than they are today, and that is true. What happened is that in the last 20 years, as population grew, as the cities grew, as more cities arose in the country, the infrastructure, the needed infrastructure, and the companies working in those fields did not grow at the same pace. They did not grow at the same pace because of many reasons, but mainly I would say is due to that the fact that we have our first waste management law in Egypt in 2020. So there was no waste management law, there was no regulatory framework, and therefore there was no incentive to move private sector players into that sector and develop it as it should have been, like in Western Europe, for example, or any other developed country around us. So let's going back to the value chain that we just mentioned. You have collection, you have bulking, hauling, treatment, and disposal. Over the last 20 years, I would say that bulking, the main infrastructure was non-existent. So bulking and treatment and disposal. So all you had was the collection, the long hauling, and the open dumping of waste. What that led to is you had waste accumulation around urban areas where it is produced. You have leakage into undesignated areas to recover materials and scavenging and this type of activity, the informal activity. And you have the open dumping of waste. Today, I would say, and that's why I use the term hopeful, I would say that the national strategy, there is a national strategy for waste management. It's high on the agenda. Proof of that is the new waste management law. And they do have plans on the short, mid, and long term. So there is a national plan, and there are objectives, there are targets, and there is a magnifying glass over the people in charge so that these things are being done in the timely manner that they are needed. There's also being heavy infrastructure investment made by the government for the main infrastructure, the basic infrastructure, which I'm talking about, which was the landfills. I think there are about 50 landfills being done over a period of 3 to 5 years in Egypt. You have about 150 material recovery facilities, and you have a bunch of other bulking facilities which are used to transport waste from close urban areas to longer distances to the landfills or to the treatment facilities that they need to go to. So on that sense, this is good. This is a hopeful approach and a hopeful vision for the people working in the sector. Also to make sure that this is a successful venture, you have service level agreements that are being drafted in a way that ensure that the service is being fulfilled to the community, which was not the case in the past. Mostly you would see the contractors that are working in certain areas picking and choosing which waste to collect, when and how, depending on the amount of valuable scrap that they have, or how much space they have in the truck, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, ensuring the service level makes sure that there is also a return on the investment for the investor. So it works both ways, and that goes through objective monitoring and supervision of the contracts. So this is also being taken into consideration with the executive regulation and with the new waste management law, which also opens the opportunity for investors to look into the sector with more, let's say, appetite.
Very good. You mentioned that the main type of waste in the waste composition of municipal waste in Egypt is organic waste. Could you just very briefly tell us what are the treatment solutions to organic waste, given that this is, the biggest portion in terms of type of waste?
Well, it is the biggest portion in weight perspective, if you consider it in weight. And there are lots of treatment technologies that you can use for organic. There are treatment technology that you can actually use in your household. You can make small composting bins in your house that will reduce the amount of waste being needed to be transported and treated and whatnot. Take into consideration that any treatment facility is designed based on the waste it receives. So there is not one standard for all. A facility maybe done for Cairo greater area will be different from a facility done in Hurghada area, for example, and so on and so forth. So it depends very much on what is being collected and received at the facility that will decide what type of facility you need to design and build. but to go back to your question, what type of treatment you can do on organic, there's basically two types. You can either aerobically treat it or anaerobically treat it. Aerobically is in the existence of oxygen, anaerobically is without oxygen. One is to do composting or soil enhancer, and the other is to produce biogas and nutrients for the soil, for example. So there are many treatment technologies. I wouldn't like to get very technical in this webinar, but because we can also spend a full day talking about all the different technologies that there are in. But I just wanted to highlight that there are simple and easy ways to reduce that problem just by having a composting bin in your backyard or even in your kitchen. There are small-sized equipments that you can purchase online and reduce significantly the amount of organic waste that you produce, and therefore reducing the problem.
Thank you, Omar. Moving on to maybe the main features of an effective waste management system. I think we touched upon the different types of waste. I mean, what are the general principles to ensure that the waste management system is actually an effective one?
Well, this is a very interesting question, and I'd like to just give an example about how to define an effective waste management system. The same way that we cannot implement, Netherlands waste management system in Egypt because the economics are different, the civic awareness is different, the regulatory framework is different, the enforceability of the law is different. Everything is absolutely different. In the same sense, we cannot implement or say, let's say, if we have an effective waste management model in Greater Cairo or Alexandria, take that same model and implement it in Asyut or in Sinai or in the Red Sea or in a landlocked area in the Delta, for example. Each case has to be studied on its own, and you have to have parameters that some parameters will be taken into consideration when designing the effective solution to manage waste in a certain area. So I would say that any effective waste management solution or system has to have three basic principles. The first one is that in the degree possible, every ton of waste that's generated is collected and accounted for. So that would be the first principle. Second principle would be in the degree possible as well. Every ton that's being collected should at least go through a treatment process before being landfilled and accounted for as well. And the third basic principle would be that every ton of waste that's being landfilled should be done so effectively and safely, first of all, and should allow for future mining or future recovery of energy or resources. So having these three main basic principles, you can start with the least of all waste management systems. What's the least of all waste management systems? That you produce waste in an area, you transport it to a landfill, and you dispose of it safely. That's the least service level that you would give to any community. And then starting from there, you can build based on the parameters that are given. So as the budget for waste management increases, then you can increase, add another stage in this process to reduce the amount of waste being transported to the landfill and maybe recovering some of those materials. But there's always, any waste management system has to start with these three basic principles. And then once you begin, then on each of those principles, you can improve. So for example, on the collection side, on the first principle, you would say, maybe we can start to do some source separation so that the collected waste is moved towards a single stream of treatment, making the capex and the opex of that value chain less. If you look at the treatment, then you would look at new technologies, innovation that will reduce the amount of waste being transported to the landfill. If you look at the landfill, doing so in a way that will allow for extraction of gas and producing electricity, for example, or mining for certain materials that can be used and reinserted back into the supply chain. So having those three basic principles will allow for a lot of enhancement, and any place, absolutely any area can have those three basic principles, and that would be called an effective waste management system.
I think this links actually to the waste management hierarchy as well, in terms of landfills being the least favorable way of getting rid of waste. And then obviously at the top, we have reducing the amount of waste produced, and then in the middle, the treatment options that you've mentioned. So I think we can move on to maybe industrial waste and the role of the Egyptian Federation of Industries. Maybe Said, you can give us a little bit of information about how the Federation is supporting industries, which of those are the most active in terms of being players in the waste management system.
Thank you, Malak, and I thanks also BEBA so much for tackling this very interesting topic. We at the Federation of Egyptian Industries, we have around 100,000 companies and factories members to our federation. We are trying. We are convinced that waste management is very important topic. So we are approaching it from a different aspect. The point is we are trying to encourage our companies to move more towards waste management. We are trying to do this through convincing the companies to allocate part of their CSR budget, implement waste management systems to work on changing the production patterns to be more towards sustainable production. For that reason, we have created a committee at the Federation called Environment and Waste Management Committee, where we have a number of companies and even banks. We have Mohamed from Unilever is part of this committee. The point is we are trying to raise the awareness of the companies about the importance of recycling, going green, environment, waste management, in order to save effort and time and to gain a good ground. We have approached the companies from the CSR angle and sustainability angle, as they are already convinced with the idea of CSR. So we are shedding the light of the waste management part in CSR. When we talk about global compact, for example, we have 2-3 principles about environment and protecting environment. If we have a look on the structure of the 100,000 companies members of the federation, we can find that almost 95% are MSMEs. So the point is how to raise the awareness and motivate the bulk of the companies, not only 2 or 3% of the companies which are large companies, to work on this, but we are trying to through this committee to spread the word and to change the mindset of the companies, shedding the light on the importance of this issue. And maybe later on, Mohamed can talk about his activities inside this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Said. Just a quick question. I mean, in terms of industries, which industry is the most active one in terms of their interest in the waste management sector and their activity within it?
So far, till now, the food industry and the cement industry.
And I mean, what would be the challenges facing other industries to be as active, in your opinion?
The lack of awareness on how to do it, and first of all, on the importance of recycling and protecting environment. Sometimes there is some problems related to permissions and even the stuff, the technical stuff equipped inside these industries to handle these files.
Understood. Because I think maybe an impression a lot of us can have is that international companies are more active given their CSR programs, their EPR programs. But I think there are also local companies that are very active and very, invested in the waste management sector as well. So it goes both ways. But it's interesting to hear that, yes, the food and the cement industries would be the top two in terms of activity in the sector. Mohamed, would you like maybe to give us a brief about Unilever's, steps and policies and initiatives in terms of waste management?
Yes, thank you very much. I would just add one comment to Dr. Said that FMCGs in general are very active in waste management because if you can see and look at the companies that who consider the most polluters in the world, you'll find them, the majority of them is FMCGs. So it's not only food companies, but FMCGs in general are the most polluters, or especially in plastics. So in Unilever, we have our vision and responsibility is to create more sustainable living world. And we call this vision and responsibility the compass. And we call it the compass because it's direct every action that we do in the whole supply chain of the company, starting from sourcing to marketing to everything. So this is our goal and vision in Unilever. Of course, we have under this related to this topic, we have one big pillar called Improve Planet Health. And one of this Improve Planet Health, this one under of it is the big bucket called Free Waste World. And under this, we have a very wide commitments to reduce the percentage of our virgin plastics by 25% by 2025, and change or return more the packaging that we are used to 25% recyclable by 2025, collect and process more plastics than we sell in the market, and by 2025, all our packaging to be reusable, recyclable, and compostable. Through the committee that Dr. Said mentioned in the Federation of Egyptian Industry, we started working together, and a group of companies came together and we started approaching Ministry of Environment. And we already on the 28th of March, we signed the Egyptian Pact for Plastic Waste. And this pact is mainly talking about the commitment of each company and how they are going to tackle the plastic issue in the Egyptian market. Each company from the FMCG sectors, I would call like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Nestle, they have their own projects, they have their own commitment. For example, for Unilever, we started in a different way. Other companies started to go to the collection and start with their models to collect the waste. We started from inside the factory, and now we managed to change all the PET, the plastic. We use this white transparent plastic like in the water bottles, and all our products, especially in the soap hand wash, to be made from recycled plastics. So now we don't use virgin plastics in our hand wash holes. It's totally recycled plastic. In generally, plastic is a good product, has a good carbon print, but we believe in Unilever that its place is in the economy, not in the environment. So now we are changing the majority of 90% of the supply chain toward to be more used and more circular economy. So now since 2008 here in Unilever, we achieved that we have zero waste to landfill. So we don't dump any waste in landfills anymore. Even the things that we cannot use or recycle now, it's we have an agreement with some cement manufacturers. They use it in their furnace to burn it and use it to manufacture cement. Now the different technologies, different approaches are used to reduce our plastic footprint. We're using recycled plastics, making all the packaging, our packaging used in our products recyclable and reusable. Now in some markets, we started to produce smaller size of the products with the concentrates, and you can take it and add water to the product in your house. So you have the normal package of the water. One thing here we are facing that we don't have enough. We have recyclers, but we don't have enough recyclers that produce recycled products that we can take it and put it back into our supply chain. That according to the standards and the requirements to produce the products. Once more, one good thing about the environmental law that was enacted in October, that it's going to give us the opportunity that we can reuse the products. So now one of the items or one of the ideas we have inside Unilever, that we can go invest in collections activities and collect our post-consumed products back and get it back to the product to the factory and start doing the whole process again of washing and remanufacturing the product, so we can use it once more, so we can guarantee the quality and meets the requirements of the products that we or the packaging material we need. So this is mainly and very briefly what we are doing in Unilever. One thing about I would like to mention about the Egyptian Pact for Plastic Waste. It's a very good initiative because it brought many companies from the private sector together, and it's showing how private sector, when it comes together and join forces together, can help the government to realize some targets or achieve some targets, especially on plastics. And we know that plastics, it's a wide problem in Egypt. If you go take a cruise in the Nile, you find tons of plastics in the Nile. So I believe it's a good initiative, showing that companies not only compete in the market for the products, but also can collaborate and do some good things to the country.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. Just a quick question about consumer awareness. How does it impact your sales? Does it impact your sales at all? There is this proposal in the law about starting a green mark system whereby products that are environmentally friendly will have this green mark. And the point being that this would attract consumers that are aware of the issue and who would like to have an active role. Does consumer awareness impact your policies in any way or form? And do you have initiatives that could encourage this spreading the awareness?
Yes, of course. Consumers awareness is very important bucket and pillar that we are working on, especially that we receive as a company's demands to be more environmentally friendly, use less plastics, use recycled plastics. So now it's of course important, and now you can see the new generations are very concerned about animal rights, environment, climate actions. So of course awareness is important. It's a big pillar that all the companies have to work on here in Egypt, especially that driving this awareness of importance of recycling and keeping the resources and the acceptance of using a recycled product, especially when you are talking about if you are talking about food or cosmetics products. So they need to make sure that the product is very safe. So to convince them to use a product that is packaged in a recycled plastic bottle, it's important, and we have to work a lot on the awareness. And this is one of the main future plans that we are working and now we're devising to start implementing very soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Roberto, maybe you can give us your insight from Coca-Cola and the different initiatives. And I mean, I'm sure there are common points between you and Unilever. So the floor is yours.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'd like to start talking about Coca-Cola globally. What are the key strategic initiatives that the Coca-Cola is doing globally, and how we are translating those initiatives into Coca-Cola Egypt here. If it's possible, I'd like to share a quick presentation to guide the discussions. Let me just share if I can do that from here. Let me know if you can see.
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me just put in the presentation mode here. Okay, I do apologize for the first slide. I know most of the people are fasting, but I hope that this will make everyone share a Coke during iftar today. Let me go to the first slide here. So globally, Coca-Cola, we have three main pillars of our sustainability program. The first pillar is a very bold vision about a world without waste. And Coca-Cola is not taking that very lightly, actually it's taking very seriously. And the three pillars of the world without waste. One is about making 100% of our packaging recyclable globally. And I'll give some examples of the initiatives there. For example, elimination of colors in PET, because we realized during the collection in several countries around the world that, for example, the green PET has 60 to 70% value of the clear PET, and the brown or dark colors only 30%, which does not make very attractive for people and the industry to collect, colored PET. So therefore, we are now considering, and this is like very news, not in Egypt yet, but I'm pushing for that as well, that even Sprite, where we use the green bottle, we want also to use the clear PET, because the clear PET is more attractive for collection and also easier for to be recycled. We are also banning the PVC material of our materials, of all packaging materials, because PVC has a lot of difficulties in recycling, is also not eco-friendly at all. There are like toxic additives in PVC, a lot of issues that I'm sure most of you are aware. So we are banning PVC of our materials. And that's the reason that we are reducing the use of shrink sleeve in the labels, because most of the sleeve in the market are made of PVC. So we are also moving our labels to eliminate the sleeves. The next pillar of the World Without Waste is about the use of recycled material in our packaging materials. This, I'm going to go in more details in the next slide, but this is also a significant challenge, especially in the beverage industry in Egypt, because the local regulation does not allow the use of recycled material in the beverage and food packages. So we are working on that with the government, because in many countries already we have 100% of recycled material in the primary packaging materials. Our plastic pallets are totally made of recycled plastic. All broken pallets that we have or crates, we return to our manufacturers to be recycled and used again. The next pillar of our World Without Waste is about the collection of the packaging materials. And we have a very bold vision here also to collect 100% of the material that we put in the market. So if today in Egypt we produce 1 billion aluminum cans, we need to recycle 1 billion aluminum cans. And if we put like 500 million PET bottles in the market every year, we also need to make sure that we collect and recycle 500 million bottles. So we want to make sure that every bottle or cans that Coca-Cola put in the market will come back and be recycled. The next key strategic globally is the water usage. Of course, water is one of the main materials of our products. 90 to 95% of the material in our products are made of water. So we need to make sure that we recycle, reuse, and we let's say eliminate any wastage related to water. Worldwide, in average, for every liter of beverage is used 2 liters of water. So you can imagine the impact of the beverage industry in the water consumption, because everything that you see in beverages, you can consider that another amount of that was also consumed in water. And the last pillar is about the carbon footprint, reducing the emissions to be more friendly to the environment, less pollution. And we want not to be only within Coca-Cola, but we're talking about the end-to-end supply chain, from the ingredients and packaging suppliers up to our coolers in the market, to be eco-friendly. So now giving a zoom on the Egypt without waste. So we are translating the word without waste, in our case, to Egypt without waste. We have 3 key pillars in this Egypt without waste. The collection. Here in the collection, Coca-Cola is in partnership with Badreldin, and we launched the latest plastic sorting facility. It's using the German technology, doing the automated separation of the plastic bottles. Is the highest capacity plant worldwide, with 10 tons per hour. The challenge here is to create a value for people to collect, because in Egypt specifically, there is not big value in the packaging material for people to collect. As you can see, people are throwing The plastic, I think, was mentioned by Mohamed in the Nile. You can see in many areas in the landfill how plastic is being thrown. And so we are working at this stage to incentivize the collection. We are thinking about some type of programs like maybe we can create machines where people will drop their bottles and get maybe a t-shirt, a Coca-Cola t-shirt or something, or a free product. So it's something under study at the moment to incentivize the collection. Then, of course, we need to have available processing technology that can produce quality recycled materials to be used in the packaging materials. And the last one, we need to create also the demand. So we need, as I mentioned before, we need to increase the percentage of recycled materials in our packaging materials. At the end, this needs to be a successful model for a circular economy. Has to be a sustainable value chain that every part has to win. So to make sure it's sustainable over time. Talking about water conservation, we apply in Coca-Cola what we call the 4 R's. So the first one is about reducing the usage of water. So in this case, we're talking about elimination of leaks, less consumption of water in the cleaning and sanitation, collecting all the condensate, collecting the drops of water in the plant to make sure we don't waste any water that we are using in the production. The next R is about recycle. So we want to make sure that we achieve 100% wastewater treatment to return clean water to the municipality. So we talk about the different type of treatments, the capacity adjustment of our wastewater treatment to match our production capacity. Some of the challenges we face here, and I believe Omar touched on that, is about the capacity and of the municipality to treat the waste generated by a beverage plant. In some cases, like in Upper Egypt, for example, we don't have even the infrastructure to return the water from our wastewater treatment to the municipality because the local water treatment plant by the municipality is not ready yet. So these are one of the challenges that we face to treat our wastewater. Then the reuse. Use of the treated water or the recycled water. Of course, we don't use that in the processed water, but we use in utilities for the steam generation. We use for service, like for firefighting, or even for the landscape, the irrigation. We try to use as much as we can to make sure that we don't waste water in our production. And the last R is about replacing. So whatever we can replace water by something else, like the example I'm giving here. In the past, all the lines use water to lubricate the conveyors to run the bottles. Today, there are materials that we purchase from the market called dry lubricants that we use in the conveyor, so they are water-free. And then we don't waste water anymore to lubricate the conveyors in the packaging lines. In terms of the carbon footprint or the energy usage, what we are doing there, we are reducing the energy consumption by using LED lights, high efficiency motors, skylights, solar tubes. So during the day, instead of keeping the lights on, we can use the natural light. We are also using now green sources or greener sources of energy. We implement already solar panels to convert into electricity, the solar energy into electricity. We are using natural gas where we have the connection, and we are trying to extend this to other plants where we still don't have natural gas availability. And for the carbon footprint, of course, we are also working on the reduction of emissions, making sure that our equipment are operating according to the local and the Coca-Cola standards. The last one about waste management. Today, 100% of our solid waste in the plants are collected by the companies to take to appropriate facilities. We have not achieved the zero to landfill. This is something that I want to discuss and connect it to Mohamed later to learn from their experience and see how we can also achieve this zero waste to the landfill. We are also implementing now the segregation of the waste to make sure that we separate in our facilities metal, plastic, cartons, and also the hazard waste. Hazard waste, we give the specific treatment according to the legislation. we are now working on looking for recycling options of hazardous waste, like, for example, the carbon that is expensive to dispose, and then we should look at the recycling some of the hazardous waste as well. So this is what I had to share from the Coca-Cola experience and initiatives so far. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Just a few comments with regards to the use of recycled materials and recycled products. It is now allowed under Egyptian regulation as long as it complies with the Egyptian standards for health and safety. It's a comment as well that Osama Zaki from Barif just shared with us, and it's something that is being worked on as well in the executive regulations. So this should be one issue, at least one issue solved.
One less, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we are not doing that only in the plastic, in the glass as well. All the breakage bottles that we have, we collect the broken glass and return to the glass manufacturer, and they reuse that in the manufacturing of new glass bottles.
This is interesting. It's interesting as well that you mentioned the issue of segregation, because now segregation is an obligation on industrial facilities. So I understand Coca-Cola already does that. My assumption would be that Unilever as well. Mohamed, maybe you can.
Yes, because to achieve zero waste to landfill, we have to segregate, and then to segregate the waste and see what we can reuse, what we cannot reuse, and then how we can get rid of it. So yes, the segregation.
So this is already in place.
Yes.
Yes. But what about other industries? Maybe Said can as well, jump in, because how easy or difficult is it going to be to implement segregation within industrial facilities?
Excuse me, Malik, can you repeat the question, please? I was on mute.
Of course. The new law includes an obligation on industrial facilities to segregate waste. So I was just wondering, because Unilever and Coca-Cola seem to have the system in place already, but with regards to other facilities, how difficult is it going to be?
Yes, this is a very good question, because as we have mentioned before that multinationals are the best players in Egypt now in this field. And there are many challenges facing the other size of companies who are facing a good number of other problems. So for them, recycling and waste management and protecting environment, unfortunately, are not on the top of their priorities due to many other challenges facing the size of their industries. And as I said before, that around 95%, if not more, of our members are micro and small and medium enterprises. So what we are trying to do is try to find a way to build their capacities on this issue, to be more able to abide by the law, and to find some sort of in-kind support from the relevant organizations. And we very recently we were thinking here about involving multinationals in peer-to-peer learning activities to encourage and motivate and capacitate the MSMEs to be more capable on respecting the law and feel the importance of the waste management and recycling.
Thank you very much. Now, last but definitely not least, we have Tony who wants to talk to us about a new plastic technology. Tony, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon. I think here is still morning. In Egypt must be afternoon by now. Just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm a doctor and I've been a director, PLC director for many years in the UK. And my interest in plastic recycling is not from my degree, of my university degree. I'm a doctor as a background. However, I love Africa and I've been for many years in Africa. I got a house in Cape Town. And I went to a safari and suddenly I saw the death of a bird because he was ingesting plastics. And that shocked me a lot. And that was in 2008. And I decided there and then to do something. So although I'm very successful as a businessman here in the UK, I want to change and I want to do something for the environment. So I put my money where my mouth is and we set up a little factory in Cape Town. And the strategy was very simple. Do something now. Do not wait for the law to change. Do not wait for somebody to do something. Let's do something now that makes a true impact. Number two is involve the community. Make sure people will benefit locally, rurally, in any single area that we plant ourselves. The community must feel the direct benefits from that. Become CO2 neutral, if not negative, make it sustainable. So not just initially, but sustainable for many years to come. Make it easy to implement. I know Africa very well. I've been here going there since 1996. Africa has got tremendous amount of maybe infrastructure difficulties or other difficulties. And that should not be a stop, a detriment for implementing this. So whatever we do, we have to be smart enough to do it and to be accepted and to be effective in Africa. And the last one, which is the most important bit for me, is do good. I believe if you want to do well, you have to do good. So on that strategy, we got a few people thinking, and we came up with a solution. And the solution is to basically capture that plastic that nobody wants, that we can see on the side of the road, that we can see on our rivers, on our seas, on our beaches when we go on holidays, and to do something with that. Whether it's from Coca-Cola or from Unilever, who cares? Let's pick them up and do something. For that, the most important thing is to understand why people doesn't pick it up. So that came my training as a doctor, you know, and it was very simple to understand. Plastic has been really good to us. It's been our friend for the last 50 years. Has replaced glass, has enhanced our living. We have better cars because plastic. We have many things. The problem is when the plastic becomes old or becomes not useful to us, we throw it away. And we throw it away because it's not an incentive to collect it. So we have generated that collection incentive. And what we did was very simple. I got a video that I produced for you, and a video is faster than me talking. It will take 2 minutes and you will get it. And basically what it is we use any plastic as a cement. So what we do with the plastics is obviously it's a collection, and we will talk about after the video about incentive, and then it's a process. And then with that, we will create things like tiles for the roofs of the houses, bricks for the pavements across the town hall, from sidewalks to parks to anything like that, and other things like manhole covers from the streets and things like that. The beauty about it is we can use any plastic. So we don't want to convert it back again into something that we have to put a liquid inside, or it's going to be dangerous for the consumer. We put it on the roof of the houses, and therefore is perfectly all right. Second thing is we mix that with sand. So it's very simple and it's an easy material to obtain anywhere in the world. And that compressed with our plastic molded is what produced the material. The beauty about it is we have generated employment wherever we are. In any village we go, we generate employment for collection and for the manufacturing of the products that we do. The third thing is the transportation of those products. When you go across Africa, is a lot of difficulties to transport tiles and things like that. Because they're plastic, they bounce back and they don't break. And it's a little bit like somebody was mentioning about the pallets. If they break, you give it back to us, we melt it again, and we make bricks again, or we make tiles again. We've been successful in a few countries already. We have done it in Cameroon. We have done it in Angola, South Africa. We have the main factory. You will see it in a minute in the video. We have even gone to Somalia. And what is the beauty about this is the moment we put a little factory, this is not a big factory, this is a very small one, because can done rurally, 70% of the side road street plastics disappear, because that's what is our raw material. We also produce a good return on investment, because basically we sell the materials more or less at the same price or a bit lower than the cement ones, than the concrete ones. And that sustains the wages, return on investment for the investors, and so on and so forth. If I can, I would like to show you the video quickly and then just leave the floor open for other people. Let me have a look if it works. Hopefully it will. That's it.
Thank you very much, Tony. I mean, as basic as it is really fascinating. Can you maybe let us know how recyclable are the tiles after production?
So yeah, so we have all the certificates because for the last 12 years we're doing this, we have to comply with all the things. But the tiles basically use PET and any other plastics that you want to have. So on a Coca-Cola bottle, you will use the cap and you will use the bottle, you will use the whole thing. And plastic bags from supermarket and so on, because remember, the strategy is to use everything now, make an impact now. And the tiles are very simple because basically you don't have to go to 500 degrees or 600 degrees. It's only 180 degrees. It's just melting the plastic to join the sand together. The tiles are very recyclable. So if you break a tile, which very rarely does, but anyway, you can bring it to us and we melt it again and we do it again. So that's no problem. But it's got tremendous amount of advantages. So for instance, in a hailstorm, when the weather is really bad, it will bounce back better than a concrete. Or when you transport it in the car, normally you break 10 to 15% of the tiles. these ones won't break. So all these things make it very sustainable. Normally, when we arrive to a community, they feel very proud because they clean the whole place and soon start importing. So normally, wherever we put our little factory, 10 to 15 kilometers around, there's no plastics, and people tend to come and live there, enhancing tourism or other things like that. And then the young guys and the other people start participating. We also built little buckets to put in the people's house on the background to throw it with plastic. And if you bring it, we'll give you money for it. Any plastic, whatever you like. So we help in the infrastructure, the local infrastructure, without complicating with recycle centers or landfills, just in a household manner.
Fantastic. I think our Q&A session is open if anyone has any questions. Even if our speakers have any questions.
Yeah. Tony, this is a question for Tony about the feedstock for your tiles. Once the place around you is clean, what do you do? Where do you get the plastic then?
We contract people. So basically, normally what we do is we contract other people around landfills or factories or whatever it is. Most of the time, we talk to hotels in areas of tourism, for instance, and we provide for them like a container, a very simple, massive container, and we say to them, and then we collect it once a week. Because for us, it's free material. My tiles become cheaper and cheaper. So if I sell it to a same price, I make really a good profit just by going once a week with a lorry and picking the containers. So we try to talk to everybody. We normally send very young people that wants to do this well, and they are our salesmen. We partner with charities, organizations. I believe one in Egypt recently cleaned 9 cities full of plastics around the Nile. So rather than send it to the landfill, leave it in a place and I pick it up. That's all it is.
Very interesting. Congratulations for this initiative.
Yeah, we need to do something now to clean the place, to don't complicate, to make sure we do good. That's all it is.
Agreed.
Well done. Very inspiring.
Thanks.
I have a question for Mohamed in Unilever about the achievement of zero waste to the landfill. If you can just share a little bit about how Unilever achieved this outstanding result, because it's something that we are also looking at.
Well, given the nature of the material that we are using, we started with the segregation of the material, and then we started to take whatever we can take to recycle and put it back into the supply chain. So like cartons, papers, and everything. And the rest of the product, we started to see, for example, if there's a plastic bottles that we are not using due to some process in the manufacturing or something, we start to sell them to the plastic recyclers, different plastic recyclers. And then whatever remained that we cannot use we cannot be any benefit to us, or we cannot use it, then we have a contract with some cement manufacturing to take it and put them in the furnace to burn it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Itsai, do you have a question?
In fact, it is a last comment that following on what I have said about raising the awareness of companies on the importance of SDG number 12, which is related to responsible consumption and production. I had a meeting yesterday with the UN resident coordinator, and we have discussed the possibility of providing the necessary technical assistance to our companies to be more able to implement SDGs. Again, I'm always here linking between the waste management and the goals or sustainability. If we have a very quick look on what is relevant to what we are saying in the SDGs, we will find that the UN is working on supporting developing countries to strengthen their scientific and technological capacity to move towards more sustainable patterns of consumption and production. We are working to know how can we ensure that people everywhere have the relevant information and awareness for sustainable development and lifestyles in harmony with nature, to encourage companies to practice and to integrate sustainability information into the reporting cycle, to reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse, and to achieve the sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources. These are some of the main guidance of SDG 12 related to protecting environment. The point here is, as long as we can attract the attention of the companies to the importance of recycling and protecting environment and waste management, this will be very helpful in moving forward fast in this track. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, then I guess the webinar has come to an end. I'd like to thank you all, our speakers definitely, and all the attendees for your time. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll leave the floor to Nadia now.
Thank you, Malak. Thank you all. It was very interactive. I've learned a lot of information. Really, I mean, this will change our lives. Will change the way we look at things. So thank you all. You are great. You are pioneers in your field, and this is something we should all be very proud of. Malak, you handle things beautifully. Thank you so much for taking the time and for making all this effort. Before we all go, I would like to project again the video of BATS, because it was on mute and the people couldn't have the opportunity to look at it. So this time you're going to listen to everything on the video. Thank you again for everything, and we look forward to more. I mean, perhaps we could have another webinar to follow up on a lot of items, because this is a very hot topic, and I'm sure a lot of opportunity would come, and we can definitely have a follow-up event on it. Thank you again.
BAT has strong foundations, and we're deploying our outstanding capabilities to meet the changing needs of consumers. For decades, cigarettes satisfied sensorial needs. Today, occasions for tobacco consumption are reduced, and with more smokers looking for alternatives, we see new opportunities to satisfy consumer preferences with a focused portfolio of new category products, and in the future with products beyond nicotine. We'll ensure our new categories portfolio operates within key boundaries that reflect our core strengths, leveraging our current inhalation and oral platforms, our global marketing reach, our science and regulatory expertise, and our strategic and financial imperatives, while simultaneously reducing the health impact of our business and making a positive contribution to the environment. To capture the new growth opportunities, we've evolved our strategy, and we now have a very clear purpose: to build a better tomorrow by reducing the health impact of our business through offering a greater choice of enjoyable and less risky products for our consumers. To deliver this purpose, we have our mission: to stimulate the senses of new adult generations. And to win, we'll be targeting high-growth segments and priority markets, and deploying inspirational foresights, remarkable innovation, powerful brands, our connected organization, our talented people and partnerships, and a focus on the US. In doing this, we'll create a better tomorrow for all our stakeholders: consumers, society, employees, and shareholders. Key to achieving our purpose is our ethos. It's an evolution of our guiding principles and represents our culture, who we are as a business. At the same time, we're moving from a business where sustainability has always been important to one where it's front and center in all we do. Reducing the health impact of our business with our targets of 50 million consumers of non-combustible products by 2030, and managing our impact on the environment by becoming carbon neutral by 2030. and behaving ethically in all we do. We're on a journey to define ourselves not by the products we sell, but by the consumer needs we meet. BAT, building a better tomorrow.
Thank you all, and looking forward to more sessions, hopefully soon.
Thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.